All right, this is the Emacs ATX February 2015 meetup. We're just going to be, there's nothing really, I didn't really plan anything this month. We didn't have any like talks, so someone last year had mentioned a possible topic was how to maintain your and organize your eList files. And so I'm just going to show how we do it at the front side. And then we're just kind of go around. If anybody has any picks for modes or hacks or tricks or something else, we'll look into that. So like I said, we're going to kind of go into how it is that we handle sharing our eList files at the front side. And what we do is we actually base it off of a project called Prelude. And I don't know if anybody's heard of Prelude before. I highly recommend it. Some people don't like something so opinionated. They want to micromanage everything, and I think that's fine. But what I do recommend is having some sort of shared solution. So inside your organization, you can have people be able to contribute to some Git repository or some central location. I think source control makes sense for what amounts to a code base, even though it's called even though it's technically configuration, it amounts to an eList code base. And so I think Prelude gives a good starting point and a good example, and so that's what we base it on. So here you can see my screen here, and so inside inside my .emacs D directory, let's see, oops, this is, here it is. You see, well, rather than explain everything that's going on, I'll kind of go directory by directory. By default, Emacs is going to read this init file, and so when you first start using Emacs, everything comes into one file. But what Prelude does is it breaks out each area of functionality into its own file. So you can see it's got this modules directory, and for each programming language or each kind of mode of editing, it's got its own custom configurations that will load things that are specific for that. So we can look at the Prelude C, for example, and it sets customization variables. It loads particular modes. You can see it's changing white space settings, and it just kind of layers on the opinions for C, because there's a lot of pieces always lying around on the floor, and so whatever the conventions are at your organization, it's just nice to gather them in one place. And so organizing it by programming language is one way to do that. Another thing that it does, so here's all the different modules. It also organizes it in terms of operating system. So optionally, if you're running on OS X, these kind of patches will get loaded. I imagine something similar for Windows or for Linux. And then another nice thing that Prelude has, which is the ability to automatically require packages. So at the front side, this is a kind of our extension to Prelude, where we have this front side directory. And this is stuff that everything inside this, every bit of eList file will get evaluated. So we have our own JavaScript set up. So these are the kind of settings that we like. So we'll go ahead and use JS2 refactor mode, use JSON mode, use Mocha snippets. Mocha is the JavaScript testing framework that we use, as well as override the defaults, which is using 4 spaces for indentation instead of 2.
Is this like off after the other Prelude configuration?
Yes. It does. Although there's a the way that Prelude is set up is it actually has if you go and look in personal, everything in personal will load, and then they've also got this preload. So any files, we don't have anything in there, but anything in the preload directory will actually run before Emacs. So it'll run at the top of the init file, and then anything else will run after. And then because this is an organization file, you can see we've got specific usernames. So here's my username, Cowboy D, and if the computer that happens to be running is my computer and that's my username, it'll only run these files. So for example, I'm the only person who uses RBM and skewer mode at the front side, so everybody else uses RVM. And so I load customizations that are just for me. But that it still allows everybody to share their own, have their own configuration, but keep it all in one repository. So that if I make changes to it, I can just push it up, and everybody benefits. So that's really it. The key is breaking out individual bits that are kind of organized around a locus of functionality, like a language mode, doing editing. So I think in the like in the Prelude editor, I mean, there's a lot of customizations there just to, you know, for example, when you switch buffers to automatically save. Very similar to if you've ever used IntelliJ or PyCharm or WebStorm or anything like that. So we piggyback pretty heavily off Prelude just because it does so much and it's constantly getting new improvements. So you know, we don't have to do anything, and people are adding to this code base and making the editor better. You know, the other thing that it does is, you know, it automatically sets up package ELPA for you, and sets it up so it's talking to Melpa and it's talking to the GNU ELPA, so that you can download packages and it'll store them locally. It sets up like I do and Helm if you want. So anyhow. That's how we manage our configuration. We have a single shared repository that has a shared configuration that's mostly shared with anyone using the Prelude, and then we have special treatment for loading a person's individual init files. And I mean, nothing revolutionary, nothing crazy about that. But folks wanted to know what one strategy was. I'd be curious to know what other strategies are, because there's certain problems with this that are a little bit awkward.
I was wondering, like, I've looked at Prelude quite a bit. I use something similar called Starter Kit. But with Prelude, the ELPA directory is not like in your source control, right? So
no, it's ignored. Yeah.
Packages. You ever find that like that breaks your custom configuration, like packages being updated from ELPA?
No.
That's one thing. Like I keep my like my ELPA directory in source control. I don't like update my packages.
You don't update your packages. Sometimes the packages will break, but generally, I mean, generally people release fixes for them. So I've heard that you could potentially use Cask with Prelude. I've never tried it myself, where, you know, because Cask will lock down, it'll create it'll say which dependencies you want. So you can upgrade a single one, but if you don't like it, you can downgrade, which is something that I kind of always roll forward on this.
A staple too now.
Is there? Yeah, it's true that, yeah, sometimes you get some broken packages in there.
Yeah, I hate to have like just like fire up and have to do some work and have like ID broken.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I'll use it.
Right. So yeah, I definitely play pretty fast and loose, but people are pretty, usually pretty good about if they release something that breaks, fixing it. Yeah. So for example, if you look at the here's the customization for the mode line. If you look at, you see, we're doing this prelude require packages here. Yeah, it'll look at it, and if it doesn't exist, it'll go ahead and fetch it, which is nice because if you're starting from completely and totally from scratch, it'll take 2 minutes the first time, but it'll download all of your customizations for you. So yeah, so that's actually really a nice thing to have. And there's some other modes out there besides Prelude that I can't remember what it's called, like auto require or
yeah. There's what is it called? Yeah, there's another package that does some sort of similar thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I use it. Package very similar to Prelude called Starter Kit.
Yeah. I used Starter Kit, and then I saw Prelude, and I just liked it seemed like Starter Kit wasn't being maintained very well.
Yeah.
And Prelude is very actively maintained.
Yeah.
The guy, Bbatsoff, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but that's his username on GitHub, is usually pretty good about that stuff, and he's wicked active in the Emacs community as well. So he does the Projectile, which is it comes bundled with Prelude, and I don't know, like that's that makes working with Emacs a lot easier too, and your work is partitioned up into projects like literally every other IDE out there.
I used to use a package that just automatically does that. It detects the root of your repository, any repository you're using. Repository root.
Repository root.
You can plug it into any package. So basically any function you're using in a given file will just find the root of the project and apply it to the project. So
yeah.
File.
Yeah.
Anywhere within this project, just based on the .get.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how Projectile works.
Is it? Oh.
Yeah, so it's got a lot of heuristics. So it'll look if you're in like a node project, it'll look for .git. If you're in any Git project or source subversion or something, it'll look for that root. It'll look for a gem file if you're in Ruby. I think it'll look for package.json if you're in a JavaScript project.
Last time I looked at Projectile, it was you have to manually create the project.
The only time you have to manually create the project is when all the other heuristics fail.
Cool. Yeah, I'll let you look at that. Seems more up to date than what I'm using.
Yeah, it's like he's mad active. And
so how does Projectile work in practice?
So Projectile works in practice. So let's look at well, we can look at this code base right here. So you have Projectile basically has a list of operations that are scoped to a particular file, or scoped to a particular project. So you have your Projectile prefix, which on Mac is Command P or Control CP. And so if I want to search for a file inside my project, I can hit Control CP and an F. And you can see it brings up an IDO in the mini buffer that's scoped to just that file. So if I want to look for, I don't know, we wanted to look for editor or something like that, you can see it's only searching the file in there. If I want to do Control CP B, which stands for switch buffer, you can see only the completions come up, which are buffers that are active inside this project. You can also do searching. So here I want to grep for let's look for Prelude require. There, and you can see it'll bring up a list, and then I can, I can navigate all the different hit results in there. So it's just, if you go to projectile, it's basically just project functions. You can rename in project. I'm trying to think what.
Well, there's lots of good stuff you can do with it. Like you can, like if you want to see, like it knows the root repository, so if you want to see the history of the whole repository.
Yeah, you can go hit Control C, like. Yeah, so like if I hit Control CP and then I think it's D, yeah, you can go to any directory in the project. And if you hit Control CP and then capital D, you just automatically go to the root of the project. And then, yeah, Prelude does have Magic bundled in. So anytime you can hit from any file. So like, if we go from like this file right here, which is in core Prelude packages, I can just hit Control-XG and it goes directly into Magic because it knows what the Git repository is for this file, because it's using projectile. The other thing is, I don't know if you can see it down on my mode line. It tells you what project you're in. So that like P/ frontside Emacs, it'll indicate, so you have which project you're in. You can also do things like you can kill all the buffers. So I've got 15 buffers open with this project. I want to just close this project down, and it shuts them all down. So it's nice. I like projectile, and that's one of the reasons I like shared solutions. I didn't have to discover projectile; it was just included for me.
Yeah.
So I guess that's it. Unless anyone has any other questions. All right. I'll go straight on to picks. And my pick for this week is picker to EL. Like it basically converts, because ELISP regular expressions are just gnarly, and I don't know. Every time I look at them, I just feel a little bit sick to my stomach. But I discovered it when I was writing the stuff for the mode line. Let me open that project back again. That's the other thing that's nice that Projectile has, is you can switch between projects, so you can see all the projects that I've got there. But like looking at the mode line, I wanted to create a ELISP regular expression, but I wanted to write it with using I don't know how you pronounce that, picker, like it's basically Perl something regular expression, like Perl common regular expressions. I don't even know what the acronym stands for, but it allows you to use regular expressions like you would literally every other place that you would encounter them, except inside ELISP. And so it provides a couple of nice functions. So you can see, like, if I create it to ELISP, I can enter in, and then it'll come, you can see it generates this string literal there. And I think it actually, if you use the RE builder mode, and then so like it'll actually work in the regular expression builder mode. You can use Perl regular expressions as well. So that was kind of cool. Anytime you want to actually use a regular expression Lisp, it's not nearly as painful. Right. All right. That's my pick.
I didn't pick a pick.
That's okay. I just proposed it. Like 2 days ago. So we're just we're getting started with it.
So I have something that is not exactly an Emacs pick, but it's an interesting update on the status of Emacs.
Really?
So lwn.net/articles/61520. The headline is the future of Emacs Squire and Emacs List. Made on this October 2014. And he goes through on that page a lot of the problems that they've run into with Guile and Emacs and the integration between the two, and has a sort of mention of some of the problems like the difference in the way null is represented and a lot of issues about representation of strings in Guile versus ELISP. And the general consensus seems to be that it's still an ongoing project and they're not ready to have something usable yet. So I was kind of hoping they'd do another Google Summer of Code like they did last year.
So what's the advantage of being able to use Guile? Like in
Parallel processing.
Really?
Do background tasks really fast. Basically, speed up.
Well, there's also hygienic macros. He lists a few other things here as well. Full numeric tower, better representation of structured objects, module system, obviously threats. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right.
For me, the hygienic macros in Steam are just so much more powerful than anything that's currently in ELISP that would achieve the same results. And particularly, it would allow you to use Scheme for things like code generation in other languages very easily, because Scheme hygienic macros is basically a DSL dream. It's C++ templates on speed. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for them to improve the kind of code refactoring and code generation using that feature.
A lot of stuff Emacs that like locks up the UI thread.
Right.
Unusable. There's like lots of good integrated issue control systems and stuff, but like having to load that stuff from the web just locks it. And of course like GNUs, like GNUs and all this stuff.
Right. Do you use GNUs?
No, I don't. It's too slow.
Yeah.
I find a lot of that stuff. I probably would if it wasn't so slow.
So, I mean, is it a pipe dream though? I mean, and how are they going to maintain backwards compatibility? Like, if there are all these issues, like, are they going to have a ELISP interpreter written on top of Scheme, or what's the strategy there?
I think the strategy at the moment is to kind of have both engines in there. I mean, it does replace the ELISP engine, but I think it uses a lot of the old ELISP engine code to support ELISP in places. Although I don't quite know that. They seem to have a lot of the buffer code, a lot of the string handling code is still there because it's incompatible with that in Scheme. Because Guile doesn't use UTF-8, so
internally,
apparently, and they're saying that that's kind of an issue. So it's quite an interesting page to read.
what is it? We can post it. Can you post it on the show notes or in the meetup?
I don't seem to be in that, so let me just see if I can put something
It's here. It's in the link is in the meetup.com. If you go to meetup.com/Emacs ATX.
I'll sign out everything at the moment. down because
We can do it. We can do it afterwards.
I'll post that link on there, but it's an interesting link.
It seems like it's the way Emacs is going to head eventually. A lot of people are working on it for a while.
Really?
Yeah, well, a lot of people have been working on it for a
Long time. It's hard.
Well, 6 of Emacs, you know. But I mean, there are lots of advantages to the change. But as they point out on here, one of the other things that people want to do is look at things like JavaScript and so on. And of course, Atom is looking at the heels of Emacs with that paradigm. And I've not actually found Atom to be particularly useful yet.
I look at package sorting, it's really easy and fun to write packages for. Like,
Right.
For Atom?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, I was like, Emacs in JavaScript, that's not very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that definitely seems to be what Atom is trying to be. And you know, the only thing I found to be so far is very, very slow and even more than Emacs.
Mhm. Yeah. I haven't tried it in over a year. But I did find the same. The other thing that I found was, well, the other thing the other thing that I really like about Emacs is that it runs in the shell. And like, I don't want to lose that.
Yeah.
I've got, you know, I've got my whole environment works beautifully. I can refactor, I can, you know, I can do everything that I can do inside this pretty beautiful, shiny app. I can do inside of, you know, an SSH session. And that's Atom will do that. Oh no, you've had experience with it like recently?
Yeah, I played with it like a couple months ago and
Mhm.
installed all the packages, checked everything. It seemed cool. I wrote a little package for it.
Yeah.
And the authoring experience is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
being able to write, like I'm not super confident.
You know, part of the problem is though, it is really like, I felt the same way, and then I actually learned eLisp, and it's definitely just like you have to learn another language, but then there's nothing really that bad about it. Like, I think it gets a bad rap, because it's Lisp.
All the parentheses are not.
Yeah, but
correct.
once you just kind of learn, it's like any language. Like I felt the same way. Like I had so many WTFs when I was learning Ruby or Python or even, I mean, JavaScript especially, right? Like,
It's much more functional than most people used to come from a C background. That kind of threw people, whereas nowadays, you know, pretty much every language has functional aspects to it.
yeah,
List comprehensions and lambdas and Python and Ruby. You know, so people are much more familiar, I think, with the idea of functional programming pipelines.
yeah. And there's, you know, with Clojure, there's actually a mainstream Lisp that's, you know, got pretty wide adoption by a big segment of the programming population.
Yeah, I've written a bunch of various little packages and stuff for you guys, but I find every time I get into like the really complex stuff, it starts to like get too much. Like I want to process an XML file or something.
Right.
Like, this is just,
Yeah, the problem, but I think there is like a little bit of a renaissance going on too, right? I mean, you know, I've not done stuff that's super complicated either, but you know, you see that the people who are, they're kind of developing a new generation of libraries, like Dash and thing for like string handling and working with lists and you know, having better object-oriented structures and things like that. But that said,
the requirements for like more modern packages we don't install stuff.
yeah. There's a big but part of that is now that there is things like Melpa and ELPA, like you can share that code and you don't have to one-off it every time and wait for it to get into like Emacs core. But that said, I think that you know, another advantage is, right, is this what you were saying, is like with the scheme interpreter, it's much easier to embed other languages. Like Guile is meant to be embedded, and it's meant to host other.
Yeah, and I think there's still a gap between the intention and reality there, of what they do. But like the Perl 6 VM, it is supposed to be flexible enough to, you be able to have other languages by compiling to it.
Mhm.
But I don't know, I mean,
But you could theoretically embed a JavaScript, like a JavaScript interpreter written in C, you could embed into Guile. Like you could have Guile, you could have Lisp functions that called out to, create a JavaScript context and put objects into it that represented your editor.
Using node modules.
yeah, I mean, Guile does have an FFI, obviously. Having looked at it, it's a very scheming FFI.
Mhm.
So, you have to have some good code there to do the changes. And what worries me about the JavaScript kind of approach is the same sort of thing that I've had problems with in Emacs before, which is when somebody goes and improves one of the core functions
Mhm.
by, completely replacing it with one they've written more.
Right.
Works better in 99% of cases, and then you get that one corner case where
Right.
behavior is different. And, so it's one of the reasons I'm so nervous about Node. I mean, when you can replace methods on the basic string package, God knows what somebody's going to do.
Right.
Also, it sounds like something we wouldn't stare.
Well, but then, I mean, the node, you could, because with Node, everybody, you get, when you enumerate your dependencies in your package JSON, you get a private copy of your module gets a private copy of that module. So.
I mean, there seems to be a lot of problems with solution of stuff and the explosion of different package managers, because one of the things that was always good about the kind of productized versions of Linux, like Ubuntu or Red Hat, was that you had the RPM package format, or you had the dev package format, and you can pull stuff down, and you can show all the dependencies were resolved and good, and your system was consistent, and you would look and say, what is the baseline in the system? Now you've got those, and you've got, the CPAN, and you've got Red, and you've got PID, and, even public has its own module manager built in. Module management should really be an OS function, not something that each one of these languages has its own version of.
Yeah,
Well, except you want to be able to have multiple environments, right? You don't want to have just the third version of whatever library for whatever environment.
But then, that's what the portage system Gentoo allows you to do. It's got slots, and select, so you can say, for my system overall, I want to use this version, but in this one particular year, I want to use a different version. You can do things like that in there.
There's a problem with being solved.
Yeah, that's true.
Then there's no single source of truth then. Yeah. Right. So not only do you violate the ROI, but you also have no single source of truth. And we ran into this actually trying to baseline our open stacks, because we had so many different package managers to deal with. And well, how do we keep all this under control? It's a tricky problem.
Yeah.
Does seem like something to be abstract, it's like universal, like ESL of some sort for package management.
All I know is the solution will be written in Emacs Lisp. All right. Well, I guess that's it.